Hi everyone, I am Bridget with PotomacBeads.com. Join me today in creating this Sunburst Pendant. This is a design by Cheryl, who also works here at PotomacBeads.com. If you need any of the materials, they were listed at the beginning of the video, as well as down below in the description area, you'll find a full list of materials, along with the exact colors that I used. You'll find links to both PotomacBeads.com and PotomacBeads.eu. So grab up all your materials and come create with me. Alright, so to start this Sunburst Pendant, I have my antique brass BowTrios here, and then also my Toho PermaFinish Almond 11.0 seed beads. I have my one antique brass halo bead, and then my disco balls, which I'm using the Emerald AB, and then my Potomac Crystal 2x3 Rondelles, which I'm using the metallic transparent aqua. So to start, I have my needle and my thread, and I'm using a just a 12 needle, and then I have the 0.008 thread. Since I am working with the metal, I want it to be a little bit of a thicker thread that I'm using. So to start, I am just going to start by stringing on my BowTrios here, and we'll do them in pairs, and you'll want them to open up towards each other. So I'll show you here these two. So I have each pair and then a seed bead in between. And we'll do that with all 16. And that'll kind of start the form of the sunburst. So it's 2 BowTrios. Remember, making sure that they're opening up towards each other, and then a seed bead in between each pair. And then we'll go around and make the ring to kind of hold those all together. Make sure not to get tangled there. There we go. Okay. And then the last pair. We'll get on there. Alright, so we have all 16 here. And just make sure that they are in the correct order. And we'll pull our thread so we're closer towards the end. And you do want to leave a little bit of a tail. You don't need a big tail, but just enough to tie a knot at the end. And what I'm going to do is thread my needle back through all of my BowTrios and the seed beads. And then once we pull it tight, you'll start seeing that form of the circle. There you go, and you can pull. Alright. And I'm going to go through the first two again. And then you can kind of pull on the tail and your needle end to kind of get that tight. Yep. And you will have, once I can lay it down straight, there we go. And so now you'll have the form of your sunburst. So from here, what we want to do is add that halo bead. I'm using a 2-hole halo. You can use a 1-hole if that's all you have. You definitely don't need the 2-hole. I'm using the 2-hole because it will kind of hold the disco ball in place a little bit better. But again, it's not necessary. You can just have the 1-hole halo. So coming out of the BowTrio here. I'm going to go into one of the holes of the halo and into a disco ball. And then back out the halo. So from here, you can kind of see the halo. When I'm going through, I'm going to be kind of doing an X with my thread. So you'll go kind of just straight through the disco and it'll be the opposite side hole of the halo bead. But you'll see that with your needle, you won't really be able to go through this one. So just go straight through and pull this down. And then I'm gonna go through the closest BowTrio that I'm next to and thread my needle towards the hole, the second hole of the halo bead. So I'm coming out of this hole, so I'm gonna thread my needle to the left towards this hole. So I'm gonna go into my BowTrio and just go through those two. So just that one pair of BowTrios. And pull tight. And then from here, I'm going to go up into my halo bead and through my disco. And if it's a little loose at first, don't worry. Sometimes you kind of have to work with getting your needle in there. Sorry about that. So I'm just coming out of my disco ball here. I know it's a little off frame for a second. I'm just pulling that tight and then finishing out of my halo there. Alright, and here you can start pulling it tight so that it lays nicely there. Okay. So now I'm going to go through the bottom row of what I previously did just to give it a little bit more security. So what I'm going to do is go through my BowTrio here and go around towards the right till I get to my tail end over here. So again, coming out of that halo bead, I'm going to go through my BowTrios and through the seed beads. And I'm going to do this all the way around until I get to my tail end of my thread. And remember just to pull tight as you're going around too. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to pull this tight, both my tail and my working thread. And And I'm gonna do a knot there just to kind of hold it a little secure. So after this, you're done with the tail end. If you want to burn that down, you can, just so that it won't get in your way. I tend to get tangled really easily, so I always kind of burn off as soon as I can. Okay. So we should have something that looks similar to this. And what I'm gonna do now is jump up to this BowTrio up here. So I'm gonna go up into the middle, and I'm gonna add a disco ball between each pair here. And work my way all the way around. So I'm just gonna go all the way around, adding a disco ball in between each of the little openings here until I get over to this end. Okay, so I'm coming out. I just kind of got all my disco balls here, and I'm gonna go around a second time, just re-through all the disco balls and the BowTrios, again, just to give it a little bit of extra kind of strength and support there. And again, if there's a little bit of space, don't worry about that. That'll, as you're going around, you can pull a little tighter there to kind of get rid of some of that space. But also at the end, once we start adding the second or the top row around here, it'll kind of all kind of get pushed together. So again, don't worry about if you have a little bit of extra space, because that'll all kind of work out in the end. So again, just making your way all the way through, and then we'll jump up to the top row and start adding the disco balls and the rondelles. Okay, so I just went through and reinforcing that first row of disco balls. As you can see, I'm coming out of the inside of a BowTrio here, so right before one of the disc duos. And I'm gonna jump up onto that top third hole of my BowTrio, going the opposite direction that I was going. So if you do it on the inside, it'll kind of hide that little bit of thread that'll be going along the BowTrio. So on this part, what we're going to be doing is adding a rondelle and a disco ball, and then another rondelle, and then going through the BowTrios. Oops. Actually, have it facing that way. And then between these, just the BowTrios, I'll be putting just one single rondelle, just like that. So again, we'll do a rondelle and a disco ball and a rondelle in between the larger space, and then in between the smaller space, just one single rondelle. So I'll make my way all the way around. So all the way around the outside of my sunburst, And once I get back to this side, we'll start kind of doing the embellishment of the seed beads around. All right. Okay, so I've made my way all the way around, and I still have some space in between these two BowTrios, and that's where I'm gonna add my tassel, if you want to add a tassel. So what I'm gonna do is add 2 seed beads and kind of pull that down. And then go through my tassel. And this is one of the longer tassels. This is the 90mm silk tassels, so you can see the length there. If you want a smaller one, you can definitely add a smaller one instead. So here you're gonna have to kind of pull apart the BowTrios just a little bit. And then I'm gonna go through that next BowTrio and pull this into place. There we go. So you can kind of see how those 2 seed beads there just kind of give it that place to rest. Okay, so from here, so we have our outside done. I'm gonna go through that next rondelle, but not through the disco ball. And since it is getting a little tight, it's a little hard to get through into that hole. So you might have to wiggle around your needle a little bit to kind of get into place there. There we go. So pull that through. And now we're gonna go ahead and add the seed beads along the edges of that, of all the disco balls. So let me get my thread in order here. There we go. So alongside each of the disco balls, I'm gonna add 6 seed beads. Let those fall down close to it. And I'm gonna go through my rondelle on the opposite side of my disco ball. And from here, since it is tight, like I said earlier, I'm just gonna go through all of my rondelles and my BowTrio there up until the next disco ball. So if you can see, just do it all in one motion. So then you don't have to try and get your needle in between each of those rondelles. And then you'll pull that, just like that. So again, I'm gonna add 6 of my seed beads. And let those fall down. And skip over my disco ball and go into that rondelle on the opposite side and go through those 3 rondelles and BowTrios up until the next disco ball. So just like that. So I'm going to do this all the way around. Again, it's 6 seed beads, and then skipping over the disco ball and going through the rondelle and just going through all of those up until the next disco ball. So you can start kind of seeing these little embellishments around the edges. All right, so just going all the way around up until the end here. So I'm actually going to jump in real quick, and I'm gonna add my bail here at the top since I'm already up here. So I've gone halfway through. I've done 4 of my disco balls, and I'm coming through the rondelle that's sandwiched in between just the top 2 BowTrios here. So it's right straight up top from wherever your tassel is. So that's where it's going to hang. So again, I'm coming out of the rondelle here before going into the BowTrio. And I'm going to add 10 seed beads. Okay. Had to double count. And from here, I'm gonna go back through my rondelle. Oops, if I can get in there. There we go. Nope, I thought I had it. This is where I was saying earlier, it is a little tricky to get the needle in there because I did kind of pull them all really tight. There we go. I'm going to pull this so it makes a little bit of a loop there. And I'm going to go back through one more time. I'm only going to go through 5, and then I'm going to add another seed bead in between, just to kind of give it a nice finished look there. Okay, so I'm going to, sorry, I keep moving it around to get the right position. So again, I'm just going to go back through 5 of my seed beads. And I'm going to add an 11th seed bead. Just let that fall. And then go back down through the next 5. There we go. So you have a nice bail there that you can hang this from. All right, so from here, again, I'm going to go through my rondelle, and this time through the BowTrio and the next rondelle. Oh, I missed that rondelle. Let's just pull this through. Go through, and again, stopping before the disc duo. I'm sorry, the disco ball. I keep saying disc duo. There we go. And now I can start adding my seed beads again. So again, adding 6 seed beads alongside each of those disco balls. Okay, so I have made my way back down to the tassel, and I'm just going to go ahead and tie a knot. Right here. And then I am all set to burn my end down. Okay, so there we have it. Have our Sunburst Pendant in the green. Move these out so you can see these both side by side. So it's a really fun pendant, and you can kind of play around with all the different crystals that we have. All right. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed making your own sunburst pendant. If you saw on my board, I also had one in the copper and the red. So it is a very easy design to kind of change up and make your own. Be fun to kind of do a different one for each season. As always, we'd love to hear from you, kind of see how you changed it up, how you made it your own, and how this video inspired your own design. Remember, if you do need any of the materials, they were listed at the beginning as well as down below underneath me. You'll find the links to both PotomacBeads.com and PotomacBeads.eu. So again, thanks for joining me, and until next time, bye-bye.